Breaking news, police fired tear gas on protesters in Ferguson. A day that began with promise of peace ends with another showdown on the streets and two members of the national media arrested. Good evening. The chaotic scene is still playing out right now in the middle of West Florissant Avenue in Ferguson.
Let's get right to News Channel 5's Christina Coleman. She ducked for cover as tear gas filled the air. Christina?
Right, I was ducking for cover because of the tear gas, and just moments ago, police were telling us to duck behind our news vehicle because they weren't sure what was happening at an apartment complex nearby. I'm looking at them right now. They're trying to direct traffic. They have been shouting at people to go the other way, turn around. They're like, man, we wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for your safety, so we're keeping an eye on that. But, you know, police were trying to clear out the street near the burnt-out Quick Trip, asking the crowd to disperse peacefully, but many of them got back onto the street. They got back onto West Florissant over time, and shortly before 9 o'clock, that tear gas was thrown multiple times. I wasn't sure what prompted it. Some say someone threw a bottle or some sort of object at police. Now, we haven't confirmed that. All I know is that everyone took off sprinting, including me and my photographer. Another journalist jumped into our car. I mean, our faces were burning, our eyes were watering. We weren't sure what was going on. And so that has been taking place. It was just this cloud of gas in the air. That's all you saw. And then armed officers walking around. It felt like you were in a war zone. You just heard this popping over and over, and the police asking everyone to stay 25 feet away from their vehicles. You had, you know, one news photographer out here with a gas mask himself. He was in the thick of it. We were just trying to stay safe and report on what was going on. But a lot of protesters, they came back out here. They came back onto the streets once that gas cleared the air, and they continue to stand there. Now, I can't see them any longer because it looks like police have got them to go farther down West Florissant by throwing that tear gas. But I can tell you that, you know, there was some concern that there were some protesters or maybe just people just coming out here to look at what was going on in the woods out here. So they're looking for people standing in the bushes, and that's what's happening now. We're going to keep monitoring this.
Also breaking tonight, two reporters in town covering the chaos in Ferguson are now part of the story. Wesley Lowery of the Washington Post and Ryan J. Riley of the Huffington Post were arrested tonight. The journalists say they were inside a McDonald's when police claim they were trespassing. Riley told me one of the county officers became physical and assaulted him.
I was turned around. A finger was jabbed into my neck. My arms were moved in a very, uncomfortable and painful position, and I was cuffed. The officer then proceeded to stuff everything into my bag and then walk me in handcuffs or in wristbands or whatever, zip ties, out of the McDonald's, at which point he banged my head on purpose against the glass of the McDonald's door, and then sarcastically said that he was sorry.
The reporters say they were detained, booked, and then released without being charged. We reached out to county police tonight for their response and have yet to hear back.
Just before the situation in Ferguson started to turn tense, the St. Louis County Police Chief praised the restraint officers have shown over the past 4 days. News Channel 5's Casey Nolan talked to Chief John Belmar about the situation that is unprecedented for St. Louis.
Yeah, and in fact, the chief says in his 28 years in law enforcement, he has never seen anything like this, and he has never even heard of anything like this in the St. Louis region. The chief says he's had about 24 cars, police cars, damaged here in Ferguson, and tens of thousands of damage done to those cars. And he says he's seen and heard dozens upon dozens of gunshots in the neighborhoods around the areas where the protesters are gathering. That's, again, all according to the chief. He says he is actually, quote, amazed and inspired by the level of restraint his officers had shown. Protesters argue their rights to assemble. Well, they say those rights are under attack. The chief says there are, quote, great people who deserve a great community living here in Ferguson, and he says it's his responsibility to make sure they are safe. Actually, earlier this morning around 1 a.m., an officer shot a man that the chief says pointed a gun at the officer, and he says, the chief does, that he's surprised it hadn't happened sooner.
I have been in fear ever since Saturday afternoon. for something like what happened last night at Chambers and Sheffendale would happen. I thought it was remarkable that it hadn't happened sooner, to be honest with you, with the amount of gunfire that we experienced in the area.
And we asked the chief, what about a curfew? He says the people that are, in his words, causing the problems wouldn't obey a curfew anyway, and it would actually just make life harder on those people that you heard Christina talking about trying to get to and from work. He said people trying to catch the bus or drive in and out of town would just be under that much more inconvenience if they put in a curfew. We'll also ask him if there was any talk of the National Guard. He says he has been in contact with the governor's office about that. He says there are some benefits, in the chief's words, to having the National Guard here, but he says there are some management issues with that many people that he isn't quite sure whether it's worth it or not. I can tell you, Mike and Ann, they thought here at this command post, just about a quarter mile or so from where Christina is, they thought last night that would be about it. They thought it was winding down until around 11:30 when things kicked up again last night. And now he is not sure how long this activity might last. Mike and Ann?
The Department of Justice is opening a civil rights investigation into the shooting death of Michael Brown. The agency's case will be separate from the one being conducted by St. Louis County. Today, prosecuting attorney Bob McCullough said there is no timetable to complete this case, but he promised all of the evidence will be made public.
It is highly likely that it will take more than one session of a grand jury to present all this information. So it is highly unlikely. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks.
Two more pieces of information we learned from county prosecutors. They're still planning to interview the eyewitness who was with Brown on the day of the shooting. And prosecutors confirm Brown did not have a previous criminal record.
The attorney for Michael Brown's family confirms the teen's body has been released to his parents. Right now, it's at an undisclosed funeral home. The family is working to hire a professional to perform a second autopsy. Meanwhile, there's an expanded effort to help improve race relations in the Ferguson community. The city's police chief says he's reached out to federal officials for help and advice. Chief Tom Jackson says he understands the community's anger and knows there's a lot of healing ahead.
There's been this undertow that now has bubbled to the surface, and it's our first priority to address it, to fix what's wrong.
The chief has also requested that people not protest after dark. Obviously, some people didn't honor that request.
It's been a tense night throughout Ferguson, as our Elizabeth Matthews found out firsthand. She just had to move locations. Liz, what's happened in the last few minutes?
That's right, guys. So just to be completely transparent about this, I was sitting in the car working on a story for tonight's 10 o'clock. I have two photographers, two photojournalists out here with me, when all of a sudden I heard what kind of sounded like fireworks going off in the street. I look back and I see, if we can take this video, it is amazing video. It is dealing with Al Jazeera, which is a group here trying to document what's going on. If you can check out this video, there is a tear gas canister being shot right at their car. It gets very close to their car, very close to their equipment. They were about to do a live shot just like we were. We were setting up in that exact same neighborhood. Obviously, we're filming this, getting ready to do live shots, and they had to take off running. Their equipment, they had to leave it there, and they had to take off running. We were surprised when about 25, 30 officers rounded the corner, suited up in tactical gear, guns raised, pointed at us, near us, and we were kind of fearing. I even at one point, sitting in the car, even kind of put my hands up in the air going, I don't know what's going on. I'm just sitting here trying to write a script. And they actually told my photojournalists that they are here to try to get us out. They told the print journalists who were just there with their still cameras that they need to put their cameras down. They need to get out of that area. We were just sitting in a residential area. There were zero crowds around us. We didn't see any protesting, any marching. We were in that neighborhood talking about how the school district is not going to start tomorrow, the Ferguson-Florissant School District, and it was frightening.
Elizabeth, stay safe. Thank you for that report. And let's take another look at what happened on the streets of Ferguson. Those tear gas canisters going off, reports of heavy gas. Team coverage continues, including a special commentary from our Art Holiday. Stay with us.